In our last video blog in the Wired Practice, we looked at how to respond to patients' online reviews of doctors. In this blog, we're going to discuss how not to respond to patient reviews. First, let's recall from the previous segment that Rate Your Doctor websites allow healthcare providers to respond to reviews about them as long as they have registered on the website. This process is called claiming your identity. However, in responding to reviews on websites where they are published, a healthcare provider cannot publicly comment on a patient's health or treatment without very clear permission in advance from the patient. It's against privacy laws. You can't even publicly acknowledge a person is a patient. However, in your response to an online complaint, you can comment on your practice's general policies and procedures. And you can certainly say thank you for an online compliment. For more on responding to critical online reviews, please see the last installment of the Wired Practice blog. In a similar vein, you don't want to openly dispute an online complaint in your response, because arguing with the patient in a public forum such as the internet makes doctors and nurses appear defensive and insensitive. To be sure, there's nothing wrong with countering a complaint with additional mitigating information. An example might be a patient who is unhappy about being sent to another doctor. In this case, the response might be to explain that doctors frequently refer patients to specialists or to subspecialists with more experience in certain areas because it's in the patient's best interest. Another important no-no to avoid is asking the website publishers to remove a critical review about you. Mind you, Rate Your Doctor websites do occasionally take down reviews, but removal is quite rare and only for very valid reasons. Grounds for removal include reviews that are obscene, exceptionally malicious, or clearly fake. Otherwise, review websites actually depend on critical reviews because without them, the site has far less credibility. Repeatedly asking you for removal marks you to the website publisher as a chronic whiner. You wind up as the boy who cried wolf. You don't want to look that way. My advice, save such requests for only the rarest, most outrageous criticisms which you can protest with strong objective reasons. Lastly, threatening a lawsuit or suing over an online review is all but guaranteed to get you nowhere. Don't take my word for it. Take the word of Eric Goldman, a law professor at Santa Clara University in California and a former Silicon Valley attorney. For years, Mr. Goldman has tracked doctor lawsuits against patients who complained online. Looking at some 36 cases, he found that 2/3 were dismissed, 5 were settled, and 5 were unresolved. Of all these cases, the closest to any legal victory any physician appeared to have come was his patient being issued a temporary restraining order to stay away from the doctor. In one case, the patient was actually awarded $50,000 under what's known as an anti-SLAPP statute, which are state laws permitting consumer rights of free expression. All this may suggest that Rate Your Doctor websites, and indeed patients themselves, are overwhelmingly biased against healthcare providers. But I can tell you our research indicates just the opposite. In a study of nearly 35,000 online reviews of doctors, we found that 69%, more than 2/3, actually rated their healthcare providers with either 4 or 5 stars out of 5 possible. Bottom line, anyone in the service profession, including my own, will always have at least a few disgruntled customers. Fortunately, I'm happy to report that doctors on balance have some of the highest levels of patient satisfaction and remain one of the most admired, respected, trusted, and thanked professions in our society.